Good afternoon, and welcome to Expose Yourself to Art, a show that explores the creative process by inviting artists to come on our program and talk with us about their life and their art. My name is David Schrader, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Linda Scheller. Hi, Linda.
Hi, David.
So, how are you this Super Bowl weekend?
Are
you
fine.
all excited?
I'm excited about reading a book.
No. Do you have a favorite team? Do you care?
Well, I'm sorry, but not about football. I love soccer. Oh, I love soccer, but I don't get to watch it enough. So, oh well. How about you? Do you have a favorite team?
Yeah, kind of. I kind of like Kansas City, and I'm a jock. I was a jock my whole life, so yeah. And the good thing is that this show will be over by the time the Super Bowl starts. So for anybody out there, any of you artists who also like sports, just hang in there with us. It'll be okay. You'll be able to make it. So anyway, today we have a very exciting guest. Exciting to me. His name is Gary Sweeney. I met him in Havana, Cuba, when we were both there for a tour. There was some big art extravaganza going on there. I forgot the name of it now. But anyway, I was intrigued by the kind of interesting work that he did. He's an artist. I wouldn't even know how to describe it. I'll read something a little bit later about it. He installs all sorts of crazy things. He has a wild sense of humor, okay? And recently, one of the reasons I invited him on this show at this time is that one of his latest projects took place in his family home, in his hometown of Manhattan Beach in California. And it was all about photography. And the reason that intrigued me is that February is Photo Modesto month at Mifflin Gallery and in Modesto every year. But this year we couldn't do anything because the gallery has been closed. But I thought it would be a perfect time to invite Gary on. And later in the show, we're going to talk about this incredible photographic project that he put together. So before we have him on, let me just read. The descriptions of him are very interesting. Here's one. Gary Sweeney appropriates commercial signage and found objects to create paintings, sculptures, and installations that humorously confront controversial topics. In his text-based compositions, he often uses linguistic puzzles and famous quotations to question the progress of society. Wow.
Good.
Let's bring him on and talk to him. We can't. Come on in here, Gary. Did you like that description?
I did. I don't know where that was from, but
I found it online.
Oh, did you?
I Googled your name.
You find a lot of things online.
Yeah, right. So welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we have a lot of things to get to today, so I'm just going to turn you over to Linda right now, and she can grill you about your past creative experiences.
Thanks, David. Gary, could you tell us a little bit about your artistic origins?
Well, I grew up in the child of the 50s and 60s in the fertile artistic ground of Southern California, and my grandmother was a painter. She lived with us, and she painted in the style of Modigliani. And I grew up in a household that was, you know how some people grow up in a musical household where everyone plays music and stuff. Well, my parents would take my sister and I to art galleries and art museums. And I had an aunt who showered me with art books and things. So I grew up in an atmosphere, and Southern California at the time had a lot of freedom, and people were exploring, and bright colors and Hollywood and surfing and cars were all part of the culture there. And it was a very carefree childhood at the beach community, and it was surrounded by creativity. And I think that sort of seeped in my entire life. And I graduated from high school. I went to UC Irvine, which was a very big hotbed of conceptualism, and all the LA artists like actually David Hockney taught there at one time, Frank Stella. it was an amazingly prominent school, and I'm afraid I was kind of a lazy student at the time, but I'd like to think that the lessons that I learned over the 4 years seeped through when I finally developed a work ethic, and so that was my background.
Excellent. What are some of the most important artistic influences and inspirations in your artistic development?
Well, I was kind of, when you're young, you're kind of a sponge, and you copy from everybody because that's how you learn so much. And so I tried a lot of different directions, and Irvine at the time was a big hotbed of conceptualism. And so I copied a lot of whoever was John Baldessari and all the names that were popular at the time. But I had a background in a junior college for my painting and drawing and printmaking. So that was a very important foundation, and it allowed me to then go on to some art theory things. So and then I think I was influenced by whatever the last exhibit that I saw by an artist. I would go home and copy them for a while.
So what about after college? Where
after college? Well, after college is an interesting story. I thought I was going to, I thought the art world was going to beat a path to my door, and I was shocked that didn't happen. And so I had a number of odd jobs. I was actually a butler at Hugh Hefner's house for a while, and I framed houses in Venice Beach, and I had all these odd jobs while I was doing some artwork. And then wait a
minute. You were a butler at Hugh.
That's a different session.
You were butler at Hugh Hefner's house?
Yeah. And but that was one of my odd jobs. I was available to do everything. I worked a little bit as a stringer for the LA Times fashion section, and I had a wide variety of jobs. And one day, a surfing buddy of mine called me up and asked me if I wanted to be a baggage handler for the airlines. And to tell you the truth, that wasn't in my top 200 on my to-do list of things. And but I was out of work at the time, so I said yes, and it turned out to be the best adult job I could ever have plotted out for myself, because for about 4 years or 5 years, that was my only source of income. And at the time, I got a few breaks, and I got a few lucky things happening to me, and commissions and stuff. And so I was able to do my artwork while I had this, I wouldn't call it a brainless job, but it didn't tax me. It didn't tax my creativity. So I was a baggage handler for 35 years. And for the first 5 years, it was, my artwork was my hobby. And then I achieved a degree of success so that baggage handling became my hobby, and our artwork was full time.
I remember a post that you put out. You as a baggage handler being destroyed with a missile or something like that.
Oh, that was a long time ago. Yeah, I did a number of things. I actually never did any artwork involving my job, and I did that on purpose because I didn't want to. I didn't want to I didn't want my job to be like, oh, look, he's an artist, but he's also a baggage handler. I didn't want oh, he's an opera singer, but he's also a coal miner. I didn't want to condescend. But amazingly, when I decided to retire, suddenly I did all this artwork, and I'm still doing all this artwork about my baggage handling past. And I'm suddenly free to make all these great pieces of artwork that I've been holding on to.
Wonderful. Did you have another question, Linda?
No, I want to see the art.
Oh, okay. Oh. So let's move on there. So
here, let's see it. It's on my phone. I'll show you. Oh,
there we go. Look at that.
So this was my first big public art commission. It was at the Denver airport. But while they were building the airport, they wanted something in the baggage claim area that would take that was humorous, and it had to do with travel, and it would take people's minds off of the wait time for waiting for their luggage. And so I actually was a finalist with some really prominent artists, but I went in there and totally oversold myself and said, look, this is the artwork that I do. It has to do with travel. I'm perfect for this. You need to hire me. And they did. And this was actually a turning point in my career. But I went around, my wife and I went around off and on for 2 years and took pictures of these unusual tourist and roadside attractions around the country, like the Barbed Wire Museum and the Barbie Doll Hall of Fame and the world's largest ball of twine. And anyway, they're all on this map. You can see the little arrow there. It's that points towards at Denver, and it says "You are here," and then underneath it says, "But your luggage is in Pittsburgh." So anyway, I worked on this for 2 years, and this is a wall I made and routed out the states. And then this is a picture of my sister that I took in 1962 when I was 10 years old, and I blew it up to billboard size, and I hand tinted it, and it says my sister Gail on vacation 1962, and then in parentheses it says actual size. And she did not appreciate that at all.
No,
no. I still think it's funny, but anyway, so this was a very popular piece at the Denver airport. In fact, I actually had a travel vacation a travel log on PBS as a result of this, where we went to these places, and it was called Sweeney's America, and it was only broadcast in Colorado, but I actually had a travel show as a result of it.
Wow. So did you have a favorite place?
Oh, there were so many good ones. I think no, the Barbie Doll Hall of Fame is right by you in San Jose, and that was pretty fun. But there was a place called the Grotto of the Redemption in Iowa, and this man had pneumonia, and he promised the Virgin Mary that he would build a shrine to her if he was cured, and he of course got cured, and he spent 40 years building this piece of outsider art, which is a compound made up of gems and broken tile, and it just goes on for acres, and that was really fascinating. But there's just so many pieces of outsider art, and there's just so many unusual museums. There's a museum for everything. There's a button museum and a bowling museum and a shoe museum, and there's a museum of medical devices in Wisconsin that are all these things that were seized by the FDA over the years because they had when they invented electricity, they invented all these things that would shock you because they thought it would cure you for these diseases, and that was really fun.
Well, I'm glad you had the travel show, because my first thought seeing this is some travel agency ought to put together a tour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
I mean, that would.
There's actually two of these maps. There's one facing this one also. So there's 350 places that, and so I was at a dinner party, and the woman found out about this project, and she said, well, we're from Oklahoma, and we have the world's largest peanut in the town next door. And I said, that's a large peanut, but the one in Georgia is actually like 5 feet taller than that. And that's what I said, this is what I've turned into. I've turned into this, like, well, yes, I know where all the world's largest peanuts are. And it's like, we have a small post office. Yeah, but the smallest post office is actually in Indiana. And it's like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it kind of took over my life for a while.
Oh, well, great project.
It was
so,
fun.
You've got more. Let's see them. Here we go.
Okay, this is on a pedestrian walkway in Denver, and it goes from the convention center, and so they wanted something to attract tourists down this street. And this is a picture that I took on that vacation that we took in 1964, and it says Colorado Vacation 1964, right before the donkey bit my sister. and that's a big transparency. And so that kind of kind of represents both my art and my humor. So
Okay.
so this you might be able to relate to. This is a real estate sign in San Antonio. I put it on an empty lot next door to the gallery where I was having a show. And in San Antonio, most of our housing developments having something to do with the Summit, having something to do with Stone Oak, and we have a place called the Dominion, and we have a place called Cibolo Creek and Culebra Creek. And so anyway, I combined all of them into this one big community of generic piece of crap mansions. And I think everyone can relate to this.
Absolutely. But people just passing by, I mean, would they mistake this for
when I was putting this up, a realtor car stopped. This guy came out with his card. And gave me his card. I said, "Did you read the sign?"
Yeah. Slapped together with cheap materials and shoddy workmanship. I mean,
ridiculously overpriced. Actually, that I know California prices are Alice in Wonderland prices, but that was a ridiculously high price for San Antonio at the time, and now it's like it rings true.
Okay.
This is one I did. We're in South Texas. We're in, this is very close to the Mexican border, and we have these motels. And actually, our city of San Antonio, I think, is maybe 60% Hispanic. But this is one of the motels that maybe undocumented workers stay at. And this was the only serious piece of artwork I think I've done in the last 30 years, but this was a note found in a 23-year-old man, and I could imagine his sweetheart waiting for him to come back from Mexico, and he died in the desert, and that's not an uncommon occurrence here. But it says, "My darling, mi querido, te extraño mucho. I miss you very much. Espero que regreses al norte pronto. I hope you return north soon." And so I made it when we went around on vacations. This is exactly the type of neon sign that I would see. This Te Extraño flashes, and this El Norte is what they used to say, color TV. They used to advertise color TV. So these were the motels we used to stay in on Route 66 on our vacation in 1964. And so that's where that inspiration is from.
I have a question. How was this displayed? Was it in a museum, or you just took a picture or a video?
The original picture, the original display was in the photograph. However, I had a show at the Boulder Museum of Art, Contemporary Art in Boulder, Colorado, where they built a hotel room and put these in for the duration of the exhibit. And it was really cool of them to do that.
Wow. Okay.
So in the same vein, I discovered these cups that fit into a chain link fence, and they were invented by a guy in Fort Worth, and I first saw them in an a used car lot, and I knew they weren't plastic cups, the usual plastic cup that you see, and so I tracked him down, and he invented these cups that fit right into a chain link fence, and they could be taken out, but they're really perfectly engineered. And so I said, "Has anyone ever done artwork with them?" And he said, "No, they haven't." So I said, "Well, let's do some artwork with them." So I made this picture of a man with binoculars, and this is down by the border. And then on the lower part, it says "Aquí estoy." So it's like a person hiding behind the bushes, sort of answering to him.
Uh-huh.
And
so this was an actual installation down?
It was, but it was only an installation that was long enough for me to take a photograph of it. I drove down there with it, and so this is the art piece.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So this is, I do a lot of mail art. I started doing mail art in the 70s. And I've got this hobby where I send postcards to my friends. Ken Little is a very prominent sculptor in the South Texas area. Actually, he's an internationally known sculptor, and he has a piece of artwork opposite this. This is a postcard that I sent to him, and it says, "Ken, I saw your show at the museum. It really knocked me out. Great stuff. I'd hate to think how long it took to make the sculptures, but your effort paid off. It's easily the best artwork I've seen in years, Gary." And then I sent him the postcard, and I asked for it back, and I blew it up, and I had red neon put onto it. And so it says, "Ken, I really hate your artwork, Gary." And it's and in the McNay Museum here in town, it's facing his piece of artwork.
And you're still friends?
We're still friends, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. So what's up next here?
So this is a map of Texas, of course, and we have all these towns that are sort of like familiar to world travelers. We have a Turkey, we have a Ireland, we have a Trinidad, Italy, Naples, Athens, Moscow, China, Berlin. Anyway, it's like nobody, they didn't have much of an imagination when they named the towns here. So I just pointed out, I sort of made it into this international, we have a Puerto Rico, Texas, but it says Texas is a melting pot of nationalities, cultures, and ethnicities, which is true. And it says, as you can see from our city names, Texas is truly an international state. And so I thought with this world global trend that this would be kind of a fun thing to do.
Uh-huh. Is this on display anywhere permanently?
It's in a private collection.
Ah, okay.
It's this sounds ridiculous, but I really wanted it to be in a city building or a state building so that the public could see it. And when this private collector bought it, and he's a very prominent collector, so having it in his collection is really a shot in the arm. But I really was kind of pouting because I wanted more people to see it. But it turns out that this couple that owns it throws a lot of parties and things. But it's so funny how I got to the point in my life where I was starting to get picky about who bought my artwork. No, I want this in a public building.
Yeah.
You can't have it.
There's some interesting names here. Do you know anything about the towns? I mean, some of them are obvious.
I know that I was trying to think. There's a huge Czech population here, but no, I don't know how they got their names. I don't know how they. I don't know why would they name something in Texas Puerto Rico?
Right, or Sudan, or
yeah.
Okay, all right. It'll remain a mystery.
It will remain a mystery. This is a sculpture that I did. It's cut out of iron. It's fairly thick, and it's not that big. But I would like to do. I thought I would like to do a full size one for maybe a corporate art collection or something, especially like if it was a woman-owned art collection, because it's like a shadow of a man and a woman almost shaking hands, like they're not quite there yet, but they're working in that direction. So
okay.
This is a house of cards I made out of artwork, and this was on display at the Boulder Museum of Contemporary Art. And I wanted to do a piece of artwork that has metaphors in it. And this name of the show is "If Only Your Metaphors Weren't So Obvious." And so I started thinking, I wanted to make a house of cards out of photos and drawings and paintings and stuff. And then I didn't know what I wanted the images to be. And at first I thought, well, I can actually do a house of cards, and that's kind of boring. And then I thought, well, I'll do a house of cards that's made out of metaphors. And so I have so I made these. I wrote down all the metaphors that I thought of that were in literature and in film. And there's one of the Titanic. This one's a posy, and that's a metaphor in poetry. This is the Birds. The movie The Birds was kind of metaphorical. This is one of a Boy Scout saving a girl from danger. And anyway, I thought of a lot of metaphors, and I made this house of cards, and I really had a lot of fun making it. And it was very tenuous. And at the opening in Boulder, this woman brought 2 kids and let them go, and they made a beeline towards this thing. And I was absolutely convinced that they were just going to hit it, and it was going to collapse on them. So it was kind of nerve-wracking. I had to make sure that the director made sure it was safe.
Is there any abusive involved, or are they actually just
well, they're pretty much, they're pretty much just there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Oh, thank you.
So you use a lot of words in your art, like metaphors. The reason I bring that up is, are there people who don't get what you're putting out there?
I imagine, yeah. That's just, that's kind of a dilemma. The people that get it, I'm ecstatic about. And I think once you learn once you get to know an artist and their vocabulary, even if it's just a visual vocabulary, then it's easier to, when they make these little progressions or little side steps and stuff like that, I think you can kind of follow them along. Don't you? I mean, yeah. It might be that the fact that the name is, if only your metaphors weren't so obvious. My titles are really important to me. So if you don't, they kind of like, get it. I don't want to hit them in the face with them, but my titles hopefully tie in, or at least give major clues as to what's going on.
Okay.
I love that about conceptual art. The titles are so intriguing. And
I think, yeah, there are artists, I have artist friends that just, and it drives me crazy when they call them like untitled. I say, you can't call it untitled. That's a title. So anyway, so that's how I roll. Okay. This was at Brooke Army Center. We have 6 Army bases, or 6 military bases in San Antonio. This was the last place that John F. Kennedy gave a speech on November 21st, right at this, about 10 yards from this wall. It's an apartment building now. And I think they have the original podium he spoke at, but the next day he went to Dallas. But the name of it's the Kennedy Apartments, and they wanted me to do something. So speaking of metaphors, he gave a speech in which he was talking about how we need to there's an Irish story where these school kids are playing, and they come up upon this wall, and it's too high for them to climb over, and then one throws their hat over. So because of that, they have to go over the wall. And so when you toss your hat over the wall, it's a metaphor for like plowing into the unknown, making yourself go into uncharted territories. And so he said, this nation has tossed its cap over the wall, and we have no choice but to chase it. So, I mean, he was so good with poetry and stuff. And so I thought that was such a great quote. And so I used it for, this is a hand tinted, this is printed onto aluminum.
Ah, very nice. I hadn't heard that quote before. It's a very good one.
Yeah. Those Irish know how to write.
They know how to do it. Yeah. Okay.
This is one. We took a cruise through the Panama Canal, and we have a river that runs through the downtown San Antonio. It's a really cool river. It's called the San Antonio River, and it's about maybe it's about 30 feet wide at the widest. And they have shops and restaurants all along. It's very picturesque. It's beautiful river. And anyway, So I took these pictures from the Panama Canal, and on the side here, I don't know if you can read it, it says the city of San Antonio recently purchased the artwork, The Building of the San Antonio River, from artist Gary Sweeney. It was discovered that the photographs were from the building of the Panama Canal and not the San Antonio River. I apologize for making the, I can't read this, for making the viewer, we apologize for misleading the viewer. The the project is currently under litigation, after which we will return. We will it will be removed. So it's staged. This didn't really happen, but I have had things like, I have had things where they suddenly didn't like my sense of humor, public art pieces where they defunded them because they didn't like my smart ass sense of humor. But I thought I had so much fun making this. I mean, if you saw how small the river was, the idea of this barge going through it or hundreds of people building it is, to me, really funny. I think a lot of my artwork is my own self-amusement. So, and this is in a city building right now too. So at least they like.
Oh, okay. Oh man.
So I was a baggage handler I told the story. I was a baggage handler, and at the end of my career, I suddenly decided I needed to do artwork. And this is not photoshopped. I actually made these hubcaps of Orville and Wilbur Wright for this aircraft, and I'm sure security would have shit carpet tax when they saw me doing this. But I took my camera out during work, and I took a whole library full of pictures of the planes so I could do artwork in the future. And like I said, I probably broke federal laws, but this is one where I built these hubcaps and I taped them onto the plane. Obviously they aren't permanent, but I thought I liked the idea. And so I did a lot of I did a series of artwork about my career.
You're a fun man to be around, let me tell you.
So the Southwest School of Art here commissioned 6 artists to do a pandemic-related print, and I took a letterpress class, which I really enjoyed. And so this is letterpress, which is generally in text. You know, it's kind of letterpress printing is a relief printing. It's how they used to make newspapers and things, where you roll this big press and it inks in and rolls it at the same time. So this is 3 different colors, and this is my contribution to the portfolio.
Ah, okay. So.
Oh, this is another one along those lines. I proposed this for our river walk, and if you can imagine a river, if you can imagine a river that's 30 or 40 or maybe 50 feet wide at the widest, and so they hated it. I really want this on the Riverwalk, and it says due to a shipping error, the panel whale watching was inadvertently installed here instead of its intended location, the Monterey Bay Aquarium in California. There are in fact no whales in the San Antonio River. The Parks Department regrets the error and apologizes for any misunderstanding. So
you need to sneak there in the middle of the
night
and put it on a post.
I thought of that. But hopefully I'll find a sympathetic person to put it there, because the idea of like a tourist from, Poteet, Texas, looking out going, I wonder where they are.
Wow. And you're in Texas, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a photograph that these are all my surfing buddies. And we are in a notorious bar in Ensenada, Mexico called Husong's Cantina. And we were down there for a surf trip, and we happened to hit it on the day that was like their anniversary. And as you can see, we are just pie-faced. But I show this I showed this to the Texas Teachers Association, an auditorium full of teachers, and I pointed out that there was not one molecule of ambition among anyone in this picture, and yet the guy with the hat on next to the L has 22 restaurants in California called Islands Restaurants, and the man with the woman on his shoulder was the CEO of Life's a Beach Sportswear, and the guy next to him owned a construction company that had offices in Florence, Italy, and Mexico. And the woman on the guy's shoulder was the first. She got the first. She was a landscape architect. She was the first certified landscape architect in California. And anyway, there was a bunch of overachievers here. The guy between the S and the J was an architect for the University of California Systems. And there was all this success. And then I point out that the guy next to the black S in the corner went on to become a famous baggage handler. And then, so anyway, I told the teachers, I said, don't let this give you some hope. Don't give up on some of those students that you think are never going to amount to anything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now we have my family home, and this was our family home in Manhattan Beach, California. My mother bought it in 1945 when my father was coming home from Guam after World War II. And it was in our family for 70 years. And it has all my childhood memories. My father, my grandmother lived downstairs. We had a typical 1950s family. We had my mother didn't work. My grandmother lived downstairs. We had a Cocker Spaniel because by law, everyone had to have a Cocker Spaniel at the time. But anyway, it was such a stereotypical 1950s family, except for the fact that my father took photographs of every facet of our life. And he always had a camera with him. And this area upstairs here at the top of the stairs was a dark room that he built for himself. And he printed his black and white photographs and color photographs too. But anyway, this was a micro documentary of our family. And we took pictures of the first day of school and Little League and Boy Scouts and Christmas and New Year's. And anyway, so
yeah, we have a video of this, correct? Yeah,
we do.
So why don't we play it and then we can come back and talk about it?
Perfect.
Yeah.
And if there's any questions, I'll be glad.
See if there are any that show up. Don't see any. Here we go.
There we go.
Maybe.
That was the short part of the video.
Yeah. We'll give it a shot again. There we go.
Okay. Manhattan Beach was a very sleepy beach community. There were empty lots all over the place. I guess it was kind of a well-kept secret, and the idea of living near the beach was not nearly as desirable as it is today. But there were a lot of modest houses, middle class, very friendly, very simple, laid back. And it's kind of hard to describe a childhood that was so simple and carefree. The house was built in 1922. And my mother bought it in 1945 when my father was in the Navy in Guam. So she bought it while he was coming home from World War II. So it's been in our family for 70 years. So when we sold the house, we knew it was going to be torn down because that's been the trend for the last 30 years in the beach community. And I was very conflicted, and it was very bittersweet that we were selling my childhood home. So it dawned on me that I actually needed to do something to give it a proper farewell. I've been working with the theme of nostalgia in my artwork for the last 30 years, and my father's photography has been an endless source for my work. I was always inspired by the way he was able to capture and track so many iconic moments of our family, moments that were sort of a shared experience of my generation. There was volume after volume of these photographs. I mean, hundreds of them. They were all dated in the back. I knew exactly how old I was throughout this whole process. And it was a hyper chronology of our entire family history. It was actually a really simple connection just to think of covering the outside of the house with my father's family photographs. I've been using a process where they actually print onto MDO board. It's a waterproof, long-lasting inkjet process. And it's just a remarkable piece of machinery. So it was perfect for what I wanted. I had to kind of put it together like a jigsaw puzzle. There's no pre-planning. There's no chronological order. It was all intuition. I usually don't work that way. I usually have a very specific plan on how something's going to look, but this was completely different. There's a lot of visualization on how this square picture is going to be broken up into this irregular area. And it's part of the fun. It's also part of the challenge. What I wanted to do was pick the photographs that stayed close to home. I wanted to highlight the house as much as I wanted to highlight the family. My father was such an active member of the community from as far back as I can remember. He was the president of the PTA. He was a Cub Scout pack leader, and he went on to become a city council member for over 20 years, in which time he was mayor 2 or 3 times. And this is all the time he was a detective in Los Angeles, and later on opened up Sweeney's hardware store. He was just a very remarkable man, and I don't ever remember a time when he wasn't completely active in the community. And he just had his camera with him. He took all the Christmas pictures that you see. The first day of school, Boy Scouts, Little League, any activities we were involved in, he always had a camera with him. So after I got the photographs up and I was able to come down off the ladder and take a good look at this project, it struck me and how much of my life this represents. And I think it also struck me that I was very, very lucky, not only with the family that I had and the place where I grew up, but I was very lucky to be able to do a project like this where I could relive my life and bring in all my friends and family. And I just feel very fortunate that I was able to have that opportunity. The community has been very supportive, and people that knew our family, I hope they leave with a smile on their face, and I hope they remember our family with fondness. And if they don't know us and they don't know who this family is, I hope it triggers memories of their own childhood and perhaps lets them reflect on their youth. I'm occupying this house through the month of February, and at the end of February, I'll take the photographs down, and then the house will be gone. Well, the nice thing is that Manhattan Beach has still managed to maintain a lot of its charm. For instance, if I walk along the Strand, and to my one side are these brand new homes that are absolutely unrecognizable as anything that was there when I was growing up. But to the other side is the same ocean and the same sunset and the same pier and the same beautiful beach that I used to see when I was 5 years old. That's timeless. That hasn't changed. The waves come in, the tide comes in and goes out, and it actually puts you right back into any time in your life that you want to be, because it's always going to be the same. So that's really comforting, and that's the constant here, and I don't see how I could ever get tired of it. I mean, the fact is that Manhattan Beach is always going to be my hometown.
That is so moving. That really is just beautiful, Gary. And it makes me nostalgic too. It's lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a young filmmaking team, a husband and wife team, and they did such a great job with it.
Marvelous.
Wow. Yeah, it's a perfect merging of the photographs with the environment, the house. I mean, what a brilliant idea to put your family on the house that occupied the house. It's wonderful. So what was the response to this? I imagine it was
it was, I just wanted I still have a lot of friends there, and I just wanted my high school friends to come and visit me. And the first day I was there, the ABC News truck pulled up, and I was just staying inside I was on a little cot with a coffee maker, and I didn't have a television set or anything, but apparently ABC News picked up on it. And the next day I woke up and there was vans as far as news vans as far as I could see, and it went viral. And in fact, there was this woman that was running up to us. She says, you're trending. And I said to my wife, look, honey, we're trending. She goes, what does that mean? I said, I don't have any idea, but this woman's really excited about it. But this was a while ago. But anyway, it went around the world. It literally was in the newspaper in the Ukraine and in Australia, and I had an email printout of all the news prints that was in. And Reuters news service picked up on it too. And my favorite story, if I have time for it.
Oh, you have plenty of time, sure.
Okay, a friend of mine was doing residency in Europe, and unbeknownst to me, and she developed a real bad stomach problem, and she had to be rushed to the operating room and so she was hospitalized. And she sent me a text while I was there, and it was like this industrial wall, and it had this little television set on it, and there was a picture of me on the television. And she says, I'm laying here dying in a hospital bed in Krakow, Poland. What the frig am I doing looking at Gary Sweeney on a television with speaking Polish? And she says, tell me I'm hallucinating.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. That was quite so anyway, obviously it was the most rewarding piece of artwork I've ever done, but it was also amazing that I had 10,000 people show up at the house. I had people coming in all hours of the night and day. And I had my high school had a reunion there, and I saw everybody I ever wanted to see. Literally, I saw my seventh grade teacher came, my English teacher from high school came, a professor from Irvine came. I had people that told me that they came to it specifically to see this piece from Seattle and Detroit and Connecticut and a couple other places, but it really resonated with everyone. Everyone related to it. I saw friends I hadn't seen in 50 years. I saw people from Little League and Boy Scouts. My parents' friends, my dad owned a hardware store and he was very popular, and his customers came. So like I said, it was beyond rewarding. It was the best I ever hoped for. And people, there was another documentary crew that kept wanting. This woman actually has films in Sundance and stuff, and she had a whole crew there, and she kept wanting me to cry on camera. And so she would say, she would say, oh, isn't this sad, your child? And by the way, the house is torn down and they built a McMansion in its place. But anyway, I thought I was going to be horribly sad about it, which is why I did the project. But it was so rewarding, and it was so, it was just very rewarding to see all these people and to see the reaction. So I wasn't nearly as sad as I thought I was going to be. But this woman kept baiting me. Isn't this sad? Your child is going to be destroyed. I said, Penny, I'm not going to cry for you. Okay? She'd go, come on, just a little tear. Just cry for me a little bit.
And she pulls an onion out of her purse.
Yeah, I was going to say, pulls an onion.
or as
puppies babies that are being abused or something.
A famous actor or actress once said, no, you have a little nook in your fingernail of your small finger, and you pull out a nose hair, and it makes you cry.
Okay, that would do it.
Yeah, that would do it. So you made a book of this too, is that?
I made a book of it, and I had a TED Talk about it. They had it had legs, and I have a book called the Manhattan Beach Memoir, and so that was it. That was another like 1 year project, and so it's and I still have people that contact me, about it, saying how much it moved them, and everyone had a story about their childhood home, and
of course.
Yeah.
Do you want to plug the book as to where people can get it or see it?
Yeah, I think it was on Amazon, and it was in bookstores. It was in that really famous bookstore in New York. Is that called the Strand Books or something? It's a real famous bookstore. That was my big excitement. It was a monster bookstore there that's been there for 150 years. So they were carrying it, but you can contact me, and I will send you a book. And I'm in San Antonio, so you can look up my address, and I can do that.
Well, I have a personal reaction to this project as a photographer. In our Photo Modesto exhibit this year that didn't take place, we had a title for it called Themes, Projects, and Stories. And I've been proselytizing and pushing the idea that it's not just enough to take pretty pictures. You have to learn the craft, but it's like, what do you do with them? There has to be what do you have to say? And so when I saw your project, I thought, yeah, there it is.
Oh, that's great. I checked all the boxes, didn't I?
You checked all the boxes. I mean, it's a theme, it's a project, it's a story. Yeah.
Well, this project actually made me, it made me realize how good a photographer my father was. I think I just, he took really good family pictures, but when I was blowing them up and having them printed onto giant boards and stuff like that, and it really made me appreciate, because I can still smell the chemicals. I never mastered black and white film, and he was so patient with me, and but boy, it just makes you appreciate old school photography.
Oh, absolutely. So what's next? Do you have a project you're working on now?
I have to do more?
Oh, well, yeah.
Wait,
yes.
I can't just rest on my laurels.
You've recently retired, man. You have all this extra free time.
Well, I just had a show at the McNay Museum here. I was in a group show. It was actually a Robert Indiana retrospective, and because he is famous for that love sculpture, that they asked some artists who use text in their work to augment the kind of bump up some of the areas of the gallery and add some spice to it. So I just had a show there, and I have about it's interesting because I have about 4 cities right now, maybe 5 cities that have asked me to submit some things for benches and for murals and things like that. And so I've been working on that, and I'm pretty sure that I will work. They will all get the green lights, and I will work on all of them for a long time. And about 3 of them will go up before city council, and they will say, either, Mr. Sweeney, we just don't think your humor is appropriate for our city, or they will say, we don't think this is funny at all, or we don't want your whale panel in our river. And whatever it was. So I think I will end up with about 2 that will actually see the light of day, and the other 3 will get shot down. So I've learned to expect that. But those 2 are, that's good. That's a good percentage. I'm happy to be able to submit them.
Well, there's a couple more stories that I know about. One of them, you mentioned the smell of chemicals, and that reminded me that of your Red Robin project.
Oh,
We don't have a picture of it, but maybe we could talk about it.
So as a result of the Denver project, I got a call, and from this company that I'd never heard of. They said, our theme is Americana, and we would like you to come up with something for our restaurants. And I don't know, I don't know if it's divine intervention or something, but I thought Americana, I thought, well, why don't I make an American flag out of baseball? They said, wow, that's a great idea. Why don't you make us one and send it to us? So I hung up the phone and said to my wife, I don't know how to make an American flag out of baseball. I didn't even know where to get started. So I got the cheapest balls, and they wouldn't take the dye. They wouldn't take, so I had to find out which balls took like a red dye and a blue dye. And then I had to figure out what it would look like, and I came upon like 20 red and 20 white and 20 red. And, so it took me about a month to make this thing, and it took 260 baseballs, and I sent it away, and I said, I'm glad that's over with. That was a big pain in the ass. And so they called up, they said, this is great. Send us 4 more next month. And so I sent them 4 more the next month. They said, okay, can you send us 6 this month? So Red Robin was only in Seattle and Portland and Canada, I think. And after about 6 months of this, like 3 and 5 and stuff, I said, how many friggin' restaurants do they have? I've never even heard of these people. And it turns out that was in 1999, and I've made 539 baseball flags for their restaurant. Another one of those things where it was like lightning in a bottle. Of all the restaurants and so it was a very, I took a lot of time off my work because they were flooding me with these. Every restaurant that they have has a American baseball flag in it. And anyway, I made a couple this year, but it's amazing. I have artwork in my garage that I swear to God, David, I thought was going to change the art world history, and these are going to make me rich. And they're wrapped in plastic and collecting dust. And I had this one stupid idea, and it just happened to be a home run. And anyway, so you never know which one's going to be embraced by the public. And as a result of that, the local basketball team, the Spurs, I made one out of basketballs, 260 basketballs. And so it was the gift that kept on giving. You never know what's going to be successful. But I think the answer there is to not say no. I think my wife would like me to say no a lot more, but I never would have, if I had just said, this sounds like too much work. I don't think I want to do that. I think for you young artists out there, you don't limit yourself.
No. Oh. So people watching, if you want to see an example of Gary's work, go to your local Red Robin.
That's right. That's right. And we travel around, and we've been to some Red Robins, and my wife keeps thinking that if she mentions it, we'll get a free unlimited fries or something. I don't know, but actually people are nice. They're really nice about it there. But I've made so many of them. All I can think about, I think I've wiped out entire states worth of cowhides.
Right. Where did you get all those baseballs?
This is a tacky story to tell, but I had one company that I was buying them from. I couldn't go to Rawlings. They told me I couldn't go to Rawlings. I had to go to this one distributor and buy all my baseballs. And about 8 years into it, I bought 2 cases of baseballs. And I said, have you kept track of how many baseballs I've bought? They said, yeah, it's all computerized. And I said, how many baseballs have I bought so far? And they looked in the computer. They go, well, so far you've spent $270,000 on baseballs.
Whoa.
That's what I said. Holy smokes. So,
jeez.
Yeah. But
I hope you recouped some of that.
Oh no, I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I made some money off it.
Yeah. Okay.
So art can be a real job creator.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, it was. It's just part of the incredible good
Right.
fortune I've had over the years.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of artists who have said similar kinds of things, which is we all have these ideas in our head about a work of art we're working on that's going to change the world, that's going to make a name for ourselves. And then someone comes in and buys this thing that you threw over in the corner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I had a retrospective a few years ago, and my parents, the house was still intact, but they up in the dark room, I had a flat file of the prints that I made during my printmaking career in college. And I remember, so I hadn't visited them in a long time, and they were part of the retrospective. And I saw some of them, and I remember seeing some where I thought, this is genius. And the ones that I thought were like these brilliant ideas were like hopelessly lame. You know, they were like typical, you know, and students have to go through all that stuff. I had to go through all that stuff. But anyway, I remember making it going, oh my God, I can't believe how brilliant I am. But on the other hand, there were a few prints that I had forgotten about where I actually said, well, I was onto something here. This isn't bad. And I remember at the time I made them, I remember thinking, oh, all right, I'll just put this away. But I looked at it and go, wow, why didn't, this wasn't bad. This one was pretty bad, but this one.
We all need an editor.
I think so.
Or something like that. Well,
did you ever have a mentor or anything? I'm a big believer in mentors.
Oh, yes, I've had a couple.
Yeah.
More so in my
now, Linda, did you have a mentor?
Well, I had a couple of really important professors as an English major that turned me on to certain writers and just opened up worlds for me. Yeah. And then the poets that I've read at times have also just expanded my idea of what poetry can and should be. So it's kind of an ongoing learning process and discovery. Yeah. And I believe in saving everything. You know, just like you, I can go back and some of my poems that I thought were just throwaways at the time, but I kept them. Yeah. And now it's like, whoa, that's a lot better than I thought. So
yeah. No, I'm a firm believer in, and I tell students, I say, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. If you're looking to be a superstar at 25, there are Frank Stellas in the world, but I said, you're in for the long haul, and it's your entire career that's going to be judging you. You might have some hits and misses, but it's the average. You have to look at it that way.
Well, you asked about, a mentor or a muse, so I had a very important one, and it taught me a lot about art, life. She taught me about art therapy, about how to use art therapeutically. She studied with Carl Jung. Oh. And brought a lot of Jungian kind of influence thing, but it was because I always thought art was just something you did and was a hobby and you put it on the wall. But after spending a lot of years with her, I learned that it's a very important thing in people's lives, and it moves them. And it can move them in very positive, healing kinds of ways. So, I was very grateful for that. It was a surprise coming from that direction. Yeah. It wasn't an art teacher or a voice teacher. It was.
Well, I think that's what the staying power of art is that it's not only good for you, of course, but keeping you finding out about yourself and centered in things, but it's also the viewer I've had that reaction with artwork. I've seen artwork that, actually moved me to tears. I think music is a little bit more, direct like that, that can really, but visual art can change your life.
Yeah. Well, I see that we've elapsed our time.
Darn.
So, Gary, thank you.
This went so fast.
I know.
We'll have to have a part B.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
We should do. Yeah. We put a question out, said, would you like Gary to come to Modesto and visit Modesto and
That
do
would be
something
great.
at the gallery? So we'll see where
That
that
would be
question
fun.
goes.
I still get passes.
On the airline, right?
Still
All
get to
right.
fly
That's
for the rest
great.
of my life.
that's-
Another reason I'm glad I didn't say no. Well, thanks so much. This has been so great.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
I've
Gary.
totally
It's been
enjoyed it.
wonderful.
And
Yeah.
one last word about our show next week. I believe it's with Keith Boggs, who is a rock musician who's also a painter. And I've known him for a number of years, and I don't know, it should be an interesting show. So
Was he in a band we've heard of?
No,
Oh.
he was, I think he'll tell us. I don't know.
Oh.
He also writes music. He performed with the band for years. Then he went into administration in a county position.
Yep. I can relate to that.
Yeah, right. So,
Well, thank
anyway.
you so much.
Okay, so thank you. And
Maybe, that thing you were asking about was the Havana Biennale. It's it's the
that's right.
Biennale.
That's right.
And the funny thing about it is that it's not every other year. It's like we went to that Biennale and I was so impressed with it. I told my friends, I said, we're all getting together and we're going to the next one. It's in 2 years, save it in 2 years. And then about a year and a half came around and I called some people, the travel agency. And he says, they're not having it this year. I said, it's called the Biennale. He says, well, that's just a suggestion.
Oh.
So then they had it the next year. But,
Oh, yeah.
all right.
I hope to go back at some time. So anyway, good night, goodbye.
Good night.
And
Thank
hey,
you so much.
Super Bowl fans,
Yeah.
you got time.